I slipped and fell in the bathtub. The impact, though not severe, miraculously restored the sight to my eyes, which had been blind since a car accident a year prior. Overwhelmed with joy, I scrambled out, eager to share the incredible news with my husband, Michael. But my steps faltered as I reached the living room. There, bathed in the warm glow of the lamps, was Michael, locked in a passionate embrace with Amy, our live-in caregiver. I froze, rooted to the spot. They saw me. My heart pounded, but instinct took over. I quickly adjusted my posture, pretending to still be the sightless woman they knew. Watched as Amy subtly raised a hand, tapping a finger near her eye, a dismissive signal. Her lips formed silent words, sharp and cruel. "Why are you panicking? She's blind." What unfolded next, witnessed by me, the supposedly blind woman, was an act so utterly shocking and absurd it shattered my entire understanding of reality. It was my 30th birthday. Michael had orchestrated a private concert with his bandmates, as a gesture to help me navigate the darkness that had enveloped me since the accident. He was the lead singer, performing the very songs that had soundtracked our courtship years ago. His voice wasn't polished, far from it, but the raw emotion poured into every lyric always moved me more than any perfect melody ever could. I was deeply touched, maybe overly so, and had quite a bit to drink amidst the enthusiastic cheers and toasts from our friends. I can't recall how I got home that night. The last clear memory before the fall was settling into the bath. It wasn't a hard fall, just a sudden slip that sent my head cracking against the ceramic edge of the tub. I remember the sharp thud and the throbbing ache that followed. A lump formed on the back of my skull. But in that instant, something extraordinary happened. My vision returned. The world flooded back into my eyes, the tiled walls of the bathroom, the steam curling upwards, the faint light filtering under the door. The shock instantly sobered me. My first impulse was pure elation, a desperate need to tell Michael about this miracle. But before I could rise, muffled voices drifted from just outside the bathroom door. It was Amy's voice, sharp and probing. "Michael, tell me the truth. Do you still have feelings for that blind woman?" Her tone was possessive. "You promised me this concert was just for show. Why did you sing with so much emotion? And your friends calling her sister-in-law like that? Did they forget I exist?" A thunderclap in my brain couldn't have felt more devastating. I stood rigid, the information crashing over me. For a long moment, I couldn't process the venom and accusation in Amy's words, the casual dismissal of me as just that blind woman. There. Voices faded as they moved further away, leaving me in stunned silence. Then the horrifying truth settled in. I was being cheated on. The mistress was Amy, the caregiver who had moved in to look after me since I was discharged from the hospital. I had never felt such profound pain. Not even when the doctors had delivered the grim prognosis after the accident. The likelihood of being permanently blind had cut so deep. Memories of Michael's kindness over the years, the unwavering devotion, the image of him proposing in my sterile hospital room, pledging to love me no matter what. It all replayed behind my newly functional eyes. I sank to the bathroom floor, curled up and wept silent, gut-wrenching sobs. A part of me desperately clung to denial, a desperate hope that I had misheard, that this was some terrible misunderstanding. I forced myself to stifle the sobs, wiped my face and stumbled out, feigning the disorientation of drunkenness. The sight in our master bedroom stole my breath. Michael was there, all right, his arms wrapped tightly around Amy, their lips locked in a bold, indifferent kiss. My face drained of all color. Under the harsh overhead light, their embrace was open, shameless. It was as if I, the mistress of the house, simply didn't exist. As I got closer and confirmed it was indeed Amy clinging to him, the ache in my chest intensified, sinking into a leaden weight. Amy, my caregiver, was Michael's cousin. Blood relatives engaged in this? A wave of nausea surged through me. I clapped a hand over my mouth, a small involuntary retching sound escaping. It was soft, but it was enough to startle them. Their movements ceased abruptly. They turned, eyes wide, freezing when they saw me. Michael reflexively pushed Amy away. "Sarah," he called out, stepping towards me. But as he passed Amy, she grabbed his arm, holding him back. Raising her hand in that same smug gesture, she tapped her eye and mouthed the cruel words again. "Why are you panicking? She's blind." Then, as if to spite Michael for pushing her away, she brazenly cupped his face in her hands and kissed him deeply. Right there in front of me. Like a determined barnacle, she latched onto him, gesturing for him to carry her towards me. My fingers dug into the doorframe, my body hunched over as I watched this nauseating display. I wanted to scream, to lunge at them, to tear them apart. But I held back. A horrifying detail caught my eye, a detail so audacious it solidified my resolve. On the wall above our bed, where our cherished wedding photo should have hung, was their wedding portrait. Michael and Amy, beaming like a devoted couple. The steely calm I had cultivated in the cutthroat world of business settled over me. I couldn't let them know I could see. Who knew what vile deeds they had committed under the cover of my supposed blindness over the past year? I had to understand the full extent of their depravity, and I would make them pay. Michael, after a momentary flicker of hesitation, yielded to Amy's demand. I watched as he awkwardly lifted her into a vertical hold, approaching me. I lowered my gaze, feigning the dazed posture of a drunk woman, and waited. As they drew within a couple of steps, I acted. With a carefully timed stumble, I pitched forward, aiming squarely at their combined forms. My fall was sudden and deliberate. Michael's face contorted in alarm. In that split second, with no time to set Amy down, he made a crucial decision to prevent me from crashing into them both and potentially revealing their intimacy. He shoved Amy away with surprising force. She hit the wall with a sickening thud and crumpled to the floor, sliding down the plaster. A cold, bitter satisfaction curled in my gut. I landed securely in Michael's arms. Feigning shock, I clutched his arm, my voice trembling with staged fright. What was that sound? Amy's face was a picture of pain and fury, a lurid green bruise already forming where she'd hit the wall. She scrambled up, glaring at Michael. But seeing his strained expression, she swallowed her anger and forced out a shaky voice. It was me, Sarah. Little Amy. I was walking past, saw you weren't in the bathroom, got worried and tripped rushing to find you. Clever girl, I thought. A formidable opponent indeed. I mumbled a few slurred words in response, playing the part of the still drunk wife. Michael helped me onto the bed. I half expected my near discovery to force them to exercise some restraint, perhaps call it a night. I was wrong. Less than half an hour later, as Michael sat beside me and Amy stood by, ostensibly fetching water and medication, Amy made her move. It was an act so brazen, so utterly contemptible, it cemented the twisted depth of their depravity. Amy began to subtly provoke Michael. Standing there holding a glass of water in one hand, her other hand made small, almost imperceptible gestures, deliberately brushing against him inches from my supposedly blind eyes. Her movements were silent, but her face was a canvas of cruel delight, a heady mix of triumphant revenge and reckless abandon. And then she began to undo the buttons on her shirt. I lay on the bed, eyes seemingly unfocused, my body stiffening at the sight. I had to fight to keep my expression neutral, the shock from showing on my face. My hands hidden under the covers, clenched into tight fists, fingernails digging into my palms as I forced myself to remain calm. I risked a glance from the corner of my eye towards Michael. The sight turned my stomach. His face was flushed, his eyes glazed over with desire. He was clearly aroused, incapable of resisting her calculated yo-yin, attraction/temptation. He fumbled with the pills, practically shoving them into my mouth. "Sarah, you're too drunk," he stammered, his voice unsteady. "Take these and get some sleep. I have some work I need to finish. Late night at the office." He pressed her exploring hand against his leg. "Come on, let's go." Without waiting for my reply, he practically leaped from the bed, pulling Amy with him. As they walked towards the door, he put on a show of concern. "Amy, you should get back to your room. Your knee looks pretty scraped from that fall. Come on, I'll get you some antiseptic." Amy mumbled an assent, setting the water glass down. As she turned to leave, a thought seemed to strike her. She stopped abruptly. Turning back, she met my unseeing eyes with a malicious stare. Pulling out her phone, she quickly typed something. Then she held the phone screen up, the text scrolling for Michael to see. The large, clear words glared from the screen. "Don't you think doing it in front of her would be more exciting?" Michael finished reading. Amy typed again. "She's drunk and blind tonight. Such a perfect opportunity. Are you sure you don't want to try?" The phone clattered onto Michael's chest. Amy walked over to the desk near the bed, opened his laptop, pulled out the chair, and crooked a finger at him, beckoning him to sit. What happened next was something I could never have anticipated. Before I could even grasp the full depravity of their intentions, Michael, his face a mask of urgent desire and nervous excitement, rushed over to her. He had barely sat down when Amy, her back to me, straddled his lap. The laptop screen flickered to life. It was positioned perfectly, facing the bed. Lying there unseen, I watched as Amy opened a document. And then, as they began their repulsive act, she started typing, the keys clattering. All the sounds, the moans and gasps she might have made, were transmuted into text, written out in that open document on the screen. Late night at the office. Finishing some work. A bitter, hysterical laugh threatened to escape me. If I hadn't miraculously regained my sight, I would never have known that Michael, the man who cultivated an image of quiet reliability, was capable of such grotesque perversion. In an instant, memories flooded back, countless nights he had told me he was working late, putting in extra hours. I remembered feeling guilty, thinking he was sacrificing himself to support me, the helpless invalid. The nausea I had fought earlier surged back stronger than ever. My fingernails dug into my palms again, anchoring me to reality. I lay there, a silent witness, watching them on that chair in my room until it was over. That night was the darkest of my life. The pain of the car accident, the loss of my sight, nothing compared to the searing agony of their betrayal. I lay awake, eyes wide open from dusk till dawn. Every image branded itself onto my memory, poison darts piercing my heart. From anger, grief, and hurt, my emotions slowly curdled into numbness, then cold hatred, and finally a terrifying stillness. At 8 the next morning, Michael left for work. Amy ambled into the kitchen, yawning, to make breakfast. Watching them play their parts, maintaining the facade of a normal household to deceive me, I sat on the sofa, quietly observing the room. The house, which I had bought outright, was decorated in a style completely different from the plans I had discussed with Michael. It was filled with garish, candy-colored furniture and decor. And in the center of the living room, replacing a space that should have held a photograph of us, was a large framed picture, Michael and Amy's wedding photo. My gaze drifted to Amy, still wearing her matching candy-colored pajamas. My hand, gripping the water glass, trembled. The pieces clicked into place, confirming the chilling conclusion that had formed in my mind after overhearing their conversation. Michael and Amy had turned my house into their marital home. The memory of Amy being hired as my caregiver the day I came home from the hospital sent a shiver of cold dread down my spine. I glanced towards the open-plan kitchen. My blood ran cold as I watched Amy casually toss leftover rice and vegetables into a pan to reheat. She pulled cucumbers from the fridge, didn't even wash them, roughly chopped them, and threw them into a greasy bowl for a salad. My face hardened. I called out to her, my voice carefully neutral. "Amy, I'm suddenly craving those soup dumplings from that place you bought last time. Would you be a dear and get me 2 orders?" I needed to get rid of her. Reluctant as she was still playing the role of my caregiver, so she had to comply. Once I was sure she had left the building, I seized the opportunity. Methodically, I searched the house. My suspicions were confirmed. Amy's belongings were everywhere, interwoven with Michael's. My own things, memories from my previous life in the old house, were crammed into a dusty storage room. And there, amidst the forgotten boxes, were remnants of my past, my wedding photos, slashed and torn. Back in the master bedroom, I stared at the walls covered with photos of Amy, pictures of their life together. My body trembled with rage. Seeing their beaming, happy faces in those photographs filled me with an almost uncontrollable urge to smash everything in the room. I remembered everything about this house. Michael and I had started renovating it after he proposed 3 years ago. The property market was soaring then. I had just received a large bonus from a project which, combined with my savings, allowed me to buy this place outright. Since it was an off-plan purchase, I continued living in the old house my parents had left me. That's when Michael entered my life. He was an employee at a partner company I frequently visited for work. We got to know each other and he started pursuing me, claiming it was love at first sight. I was 27 then, well into the age where societal pressure about being leftover started to gnaw at you. Michael was persistent, showering me with attentive kindness. He seemed genuinely shy, even awkward at times, like someone inexperienced in romance. I truly believed he was a rare find in this modern world. A man offering a pure, sincere heart. I accepted his proposal. For 2 years, he maintained the facade of being honest and simple. Then came the accident. I braced myself for the inevitable, fully expecting him to abandon me given my condition, given human nature's often cruel indifference. But he didn't. The day I woke up, he was there solemnly proposing, vowing his love for me, not my sight, promising eternal devotion through sickness and health. I genuinely believed I was the luckiest woman alive. Overcome with gratitude, I even insisted on adding his name to the property deed, formalizing it legally. Now, standing in this house, this grotesque testament to their deceit, the truth was a brutal slap in the face. What kind of monster proposes to you, then secretly decorates your future home according to his cousin's taste, all while lying to you, making you believe it was done according to your own? The chilling implications were suffocating. I suppressed the storm of emotions churning within me, trying to think clearly about how to retaliate against these two venomous individuals. My eyes scanned the bedside table. A small white pill bottle sat there, covered in English words, next to a glass of water. It was the medication I had taken last night. A memory flickered, the doctor mentioning this was a particularly gentle formula, perhaps even a traditional compound, adapting the Chinese medicine slightly for broader context. My heart pounded with a sudden, inexplicable dread. I forced myself forward and picked up the bottle. My gaze fell on the label. Hydroxychloroquine. A cold wave washed over me. I fumbled for my phone and frantically searched for information about the drug. The results were damning. It was primarily used for treating malaria, not eye conditions. Worse, a known side effect was eye damage, even blindness. My hand shook. The phone clattered to the floor. Michael. Why would he give me this? A cascade of horrific possibilities flooded my mind. I snatched up the phone, my first thought to call my eye doctor. I needed to know if this drug was ever prescribed to me, if it had some purpose I wasn't aware of. But then I remembered Michael had handled all communication with my doctor for the past year. I couldn't risk him finding out. Scrolling through my contacts, my options felt incredibly limited. Since the accident, I had withdrawn, lost in depression and isolation. I hadn't spoken to anyone outside of Michael and Amy. As an orphan, having lost my parents years ago, Michael had become my sole source of warmth and stability in this city. Now that warmth had transformed into a chilling nightmare. Waking from this nightmare, I could think of only one person to turn to, my former boss, Ethan Hayes. While Amy was gone for a few hours, I couldn't be certain she wouldn't return unexpectedly. Ethan was steady, reliable, and had always been fair. I dialed his number. Mr. Hayes. I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. Are you busy? Could you help me look into something? It's very urgent. There was a moment of silence on the line. Nearly a year of no contact. He must have been surprised. Then his voice came, calm and direct. Not busy. What do you need me to look into? No hesitation. No questions about why I was calling now. Just simple, straightforward willingness. A wave of relief washed over me, dissolving the anxiety of reaching out after so long. A grateful smile touched my lips. I remembered working with him, the synergy we had, tackling challenges head-on, winning project after project. Ethan had always been someone I could trust implicitly. Taking a deep breath, I told him everything: the miraculous return of my sight, the shocking betrayal by Michael and Amy, the discovery of the hydroxychloroquine. He listened in silence, his breathing growing heavier, colder. Before I could even formulate my request, he spoke, anticipating my need. I'll go to the hospital and check that medication for you. He had guessed my intention immediately. My eyes welled up again. His voice was firm, decisive. It's still early. There's enough time today to get results. To be safe, wait for me to contact you first. He continued, his voice taking on the familiar, instructive tone he used during strategy meetings. For now, you need to find a way to avoid taking that drug. And you must start gathering evidence. If possible, try to create situations where they might reveal the truth. His voice softened slightly. Remember, don't be impulsive. Stay calm, be strategic. If you need anything at all, call me. I will do everything I can to help you. He paused before hanging up. Sarah. Protect yourself. Those simple words, protect yourself, Sarah, felt like a cool, refreshing breeze on a scorching summer day. They calmed the frantic turmoil in my heart. This was a battle, a long, hard one, and I couldn't afford to lose control of my emotions before it even truly began. Taking a deep, steadying breath, I deleted the call history from my phone. Then, I carefully swapped the white hydroxychloroquine pills in the bottle for simple vitamin tablets from the medicine cabinet. Checking the windows again, I confirmed Amy wasn't back in the complex yet. With a renewed sense of purpose, I used my phone to record a video walkthrough of the entire house, documenting the strange decor and their intertwined belongings. I focused especially on their wedding photo and other intimate pictures, taking multiple shots. I uploaded everything to a secure cloud storage, then permanently deleted the copies from my phone. Just as I finished, a quick glance out the window revealed Michael's car pulling into the complex. He was dropping Amy off. On this hot midday weekday, the complex was quiet, few people around. Amy, bag of soup dumplings in hand, hopped out of the passenger seat, a wide smile on her face. She held up the bag, then, in a blatant display of affection, she ran back to the car and leaned in to kiss Michael goodbye through the open window. They looked every bit the sweet, loving couple. The sight was blindingly audacious. My fists clenched. A cold, humorless laugh escaped me. Checking the clock, I saw she was back almost an hour earlier than if she had gone alone. Michael had skipped work, risked being seen just to help her run an errand. A picture-perfect portrait of a devoted couple. But if this was their reality, why had Michael married me in the first place? I knew for a fact that he and Amy had known each other long before I met him. My gaze swept over the ridiculous stage decor of the house again. A flicker of thought, an uneasy intuition grew stronger. That evening, Michael came home early as usual. In the past, when I couldn't see, I'd attributed his early return to his eagerness to be with me, his concern for my well-being. Now seeing him walk in, head straight for Amy for a kiss and embrace, then present her with a small wrapped gift he had clearly picked up for her, before even acknowledging me, I realized the painful absurdity of my past assumptions. Sitting on the sofa, I felt like a phantom in my own home. Superfluous, invisible. Yet this was my house, my home. I watched as Michael, carrying a few smaller trinkets, clearly the ones Amy hadn't wanted, started towards me, ready to launch into his usual routine of feigning affection and presenting them as thoughtful gifts just for me. I stifled the urge to sneer, standing up before he reached me. At this point, I was desperate for the results of Ethan's investigation. Every second spent in Michael's presence felt like a physical assault. But I had to play the part. I summoned all my acting ability, adopting the persona of a woman. Frustrated and agitated by her blindness, I unleashed a torrent of staged anger at Michael, slamming the trinkets he offered onto the floor. I even raised my hand and slapped him a few times across the face. A calculated risk to push him away. I kept up the performance until he finally snapped, turning and storming out, slamming the door behind him. Amy, ever the opportunist, immediately called out, feigning concern, and hurried after him, ostensibly to make sure he was all right. As soon as the door closed and I was sure they were gone, my demeanor shifted instantly. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and turned the shower on full blast to mask any sound. My hands trembling, I pulled out my phone and called Ethan. The line picked up immediately, as if he had been waiting. Mr. Hayes. My voice was tight with anticipation. Do you have the results? Yes, he confirmed simply. Then silence. It stretched for maybe 10 seconds, but it felt like an eternity, my heart pounding against my ribs. Finally, he spoke and delivered a result I could never in a million years have foreseen. Hydroxychloroquine was not a drug my doctor had prescribed. Furthermore, Michael hadn't only started buying it recently. He had been acquiring it intermittently for 6 years. Ethan's voice was grave on the phone. Sarah, I had his activities over the past 6 years thoroughly investigated. I discovered something. Something you might find very disturbing. My stomach plummeted. What is it? Over the past 6 years, Michael has had 3 serious girlfriends, including you. Every single one of them experienced a sudden, unexplained decline in their vision. He continued, laying out the chilling details. They were all nearsighted to begin with, so they didn't seek medical attention for the initial symptoms. Added to that, there were issues with incompatibility, and one of them even discovered his affair with Amy. So the relationships ended inconclusively for him. You, he stated, his voice hardening slightly, were his longest relationship, and you happened to be in a car accident that coincided with your worsening vision, providing the perfect cover story for your complete blindness. The accident itself wasn't that severe as I understand it, but it resulted in your total sight loss. If I recall correctly, you had already experienced temporary blindness before the crash, which impacted your work. He summarized his findings, a cold efficiency in his tone. Michael's previous girlfriend shared several common characteristics: financially independent, orphaned or estranged from family, home buddies, limited social circles, approaching or past the typical marriage age, and eager to settle down. Ethan's delivery was measured, almost gentle, clearly attempting to soothe my shock. But I listened with a growing sense of horror, goosebumps prickling my skin, my hair standing on end. "Sarah," he said, his voice final and certain. "His pursuit of you was premeditated. Your current situation is not an accident." A pause. "What I can't understand is, why? What was his ultimate goal?" "Yes, why? If it was just about money, he had already secured half the house deed and controlled my savings and accident compensation funds through his investment management. He could have simply absconded with the money. Why maintain this elaborate charade? If it was about the thrill, a year-long affair with his cousin must surely have become tedious. My presence must have been inconvenient, limiting their freedom." Amy's impatience was clear from their conversation I had overheard in the bathroom. Yet she tolerated it, even without the legitimacy of marriage. It didn't make sense. After hanging up, I spent a few minutes composing myself. When Michael returned, I offered him a tentative apology, putting on a show of remorse for my earlier outburst. In front of Amy's hateful glare, I even pecked him on the cheek and suggested we spend some time together in the bedroom. As expected, Amy immediately began bombarding his phone with frantic messages, demanding he stay away from me, showering me with insults. I stood near him, watching the stream of cruel texts. My lips curved into a thin, cold smile. I knew he wouldn't be able to resist her demands. When he finally stammered that he had some urgent work to attend to, I seized the opportunity. "Okay, fine," I sighed, feigning disappointment. "But could you at least give me the video of the concert from the other night? I'll listen to it while I wait for you to finish up so we can sleep together." The concert video was on his phone. Eager to escape and placate Amy, he readily agreed. He quickly opened the video and handed the phone to me, perhaps to prevent me from hearing their conversation outside, or maybe simply out of a twisted form of concern. He even thoughtfully plugged in a pair of earbuds and placed them in my ears. I had been worried about him hearing me. Now, with the earbuds providing a convenient cover, I quickly removed one earbud, keeping the other in to monitor the sounds outside the door. With my newly restored sight, I navigated to his messages. The biggest advantage of being presumed blind was the complete lack of caution from Michael and Amy regarding anything I could see. Their chat history, for instance, was never deleted. My heart clenched as I saw Amy's contact name saved as Darling Wife. I gripped the phone, taking a deep breath, and began scrolling upwards. I scrolled for over 2 hours, piecing together fragments of their conversations, their plans, their secrets. It was a sickening descent into their twisted world. I was still scrolling when Michael finally returned to the bedroom. I quickly switched back to the concert video, pretending to be engrossed, forcing my face into a mask of passive listening as his voice, singing those same love songs, echoed in my earbud. I hadn't realized it until then, but I was weeping. I wasn't crying out of anger anymore. I was crying out of sheer terror. The question that had plagued me since I overheard Amy in the bathroom. The question I couldn't solve. Finally had an answer more horrific than I could have ever imagined. Amy wasn't just pretending to be his cousin. She was his cousin. They were genuinely first cousins. From their awkward, youthful crush to their current twisted reality, they had been lovers for 15 years. To hide their incestuous relationship, they had deliberately moved to a large city where no one knew them, living together pretending to be a normal couple. But time marched on. Michael's family, particularly his mother, began pressuring him intensely to marry and provide an heir. His mother's failing health added urgency. She desperately wanted a grandchild before she died, even resorting to emotional blackmail. Pressed by family demands, Michael decided he had to marry someone. But what normal woman would accept his long-standing affair with his cousin? And how long could they keep their secret hidden? So Michael and Amy concocted a truly monstrous plan. They would find a woman who was wealthy, easy to control, who could serve as a suitable vessel for producing an heir for the family name, and act as a convenient shield for their forbidden relationship. I was their third target, Orphaned, financially independent with a limited social circle, not much dating experience, susceptible to flattery, and crucially, approaching the age where marriage seemed increasingly urgent. My reaction to the drug they were giving me was also stronger than the others. Compared to their previous targets, I was, in their cold calculation, the perfect candidate, a godsend. After thoroughly investigating my background, Michael began his relentless pursuit. He was persistent, unwavering. Yet, he hadn't quite managed to gain my complete trust or engineer a marriage until the car accident. My accident provided them with the perfect opportunity. A way to secure my commitment and create a plausible, tragic explanation for my blindness, conveniently masking the true cause, the drug he had been administering. Everything had unfolded with chilling precision, a terrifying sequence of events orchestrated to perfection. After reading their entire chat history, piecing together the motives and methods, I couldn't shake the chilling feeling that even the car accident itself might have been part of their elaborate design, although it wasn't explicitly mentioned in their logs. My hand, still clutching the phone, trembled uncontrollably. Michael was getting closer. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a wave of pure, debilitating fear wash over me. The thought of having shared a bed with this monster for almost a year made my skin crawl. My limbs felt icy, a violent tremor running through my body. Michael noticed my shaking. His stride quickened. He reached the bed and grabbed my arm. I looked at his face, suddenly inches from mine. Unable to stomach the thought of his touch, I leaned my body to the side and feigned losing consciousness, collapsing onto the bed. Michael took me to the hospital. Though it was normally the last place I wanted to be, the sheer number of people here provided a strange sense of security. I feigned unconsciousness for a full night, not daring to wake up until late the next morning. Lying there, I let the bright sunlight streaming through the window calm my racing heart. I finally saw things clearly. As an orphan, abandoned and alone in the world, there was only one person I could rely on in this situation: myself. If I succumbed to fear now, I would be forever trapped in the shadow of their cruelty. I had to conquer this terror and deliver the most devastating retaliation possible. I, Sarah Vance, was not a helpless victim to be discarded. I remained in the hospital for 3 days, using the time to meticulously plot my first move. It was simple: ruin Michael's career within our industry. Once discharged and back home, I set about gathering the evidence I needed. I carefully collected proof of Michael and Amy's affair. The wedding photo, their intimate pictures, snippets from their chat, logs I had memorized. More difficult but crucial was gathering evidence of their relationship as cousins. I sent everything: photos, logs, and family tree information I managed to find, to Ethan. As a major figure in our industry, Ethan knew everyone, especially Michael's boss, with whom he had a close relationship. My plan was for Ethan to strategically leak the information within their inner circle. I waited at home patiently. The plan worked perfectly. It wasn't long before Michael's reputation in the industry's upper echelons was utterly destroyed. To protect his company's image from the scandal, Michael's boss found a convenient excuse to fire him. Michael was just a mid-level employee, easily replaced. The choice was obvious. Michael, being so low on the totem pole, didn't even have the clearance to hear the gossip himself. He was simply given his walking papers, left to believe he had failed somehow, and slunk away. Michael was fired on Valentine's Day. I received the news and felt an almost giddy sense of satisfaction. Humming, I told Amy I wanted a special, romantic dinner to celebrate the holiday with Michael. I instructed her to prepare a lavish feast and even opened an expensive bottle of red wine. Citing the need for privacy for a romantic evening, I gave Amy the night off. I put on a dress I hadn't worn in years, did my hair and makeup, and prepared to welcome Michael home. Amy was clearly furious. The moment I dismissed her, she began furiously texting Michael. Standing nearby, I saw the stream of messages on his phone. His angry complaints about being fired, his venomous insults directed at his boss. A smile touched my lips. I knew this meant they would absolutely be spending the evening together, far away from me. Sure enough, Amy shot me a triumphant glare, dressed herself carefully, and left. Moments later, Michael called. I expected him to say he was just going out with Amy for dinner or to spend the night. Instead, he told me he had to go on a sudden business trip for a few days. He was using the firing as an excuse to take Amy on a vacation. It felt like the universe was finally on my side. I feigned disappointment and worry, playing the role of the distressed wife, keeping him on the phone for a while. Until he finally came up with a plausible excuse for Amy also being gone, ensuring I would have the house to myself for a few days without raising suspicion. Hanging up the phone, I felt a wave of exhilaration wash over me, like walking out of a prison cell. I double-locked the door and poured myself a glass of the expensive red wine. Scrolling through Amy's social media, I confirmed they were indeed headed to the airport. Then I sent a message to Ethan. I explained the situation. Michael and Amy were gone for a few days. Mr. Hayes, I typed, do you have plans tonight? If not, would you care to come over for a drink? The first phase of my revenge was complete. The second phase, more complex, needed to begin immediately. I needed to discuss it face-to-face with Ethan, taking advantage of this precious window of time Michael had inadvertently given me. It was a holiday, a night for couples, and I worried calling him might seem insensitive, but I didn't have much hope he'd say yes anyway, given his busy life. His reply was instantaneous. It's rare for someone to invite this old bachelor over on Valentine's Day. He wrote, send me the address. I'll bring the wine, you do the cooking? I remember you're an excellent cook. A genuine smile spread across my face. Deal, I typed back. It had been a long time since I cooked. Since losing my sight, the kitchen had become a forbidden zone. A constant reminder of what I couldn't do. Stepping back into it, tying on an apron, something unexpected happened. My eyes welled up with a strange mix of sadness and anticipation. I carefully packed away the meal Amy had prepared into the fridge. Then I rolled up my sleeves, washed my hands, and with newfound purpose, began washing and chopping the vegetables, the familiar motions bringing a surprising sense of comfort. The doorbell rang about 30 minutes later. Our apartment building was designed with private elevators leading directly to each unit, meaning no one could accidentally see Ethan arrive. With Michael and Amy gone, it was perhaps the safest place for us to meet. I waited by the elevator doors. As the doors slid open, I saw him. My eyes, so long starved of visual detail, took him in. My former comrade in arms, my rock. Nearly a year, and he looked much the same, tall, handsome, only a slightly different haircut. He seemed untouched by time, by hardship. My own life in that same period had been a brutal roller coaster. Seeing the stark contrast, the tears I had been fighting pricked at my eyes again. Our eyes met. He was clearly assessing me, seeing the changes the past year had wrought. His gaze softened. Then a warm, broad smile spread across his face, and he opened his arms. Long time no see, Sarah, he said gently. He paused for a moment, then added, welcome back. His words hit me harder than I expected. The tears I had held back for so long finally streamed down my face. I stepped forward and hugged him tightly, burying my face in his shoulder for a brief, necessary moment of solace. I wanted to cling to him, to soak up the comfort he offered, but I pulled back, forcing myself to let go. Wiping my eyes, I gestured for him to come inside. Seeing his suit, his polished appearance, it was clear he had come directly from an engagement or work. The thought that he had dropped everything to come to me filled me with immense gratitude. I thanked him profusely. To have such a good friend, such a steady presence, in the aftermath of such betrayal felt like the only stroke of luck I'd had in a very long time. Following the dictates of memory, I cooked several of Ethan's favorite dishes, pouring my focus into the task. We ate, talked, and I had half a bottle of red wine before I finally shifted gears, my voice hardening. I've gone through my accounts over the past few days, I said, laying out the financial details. Most of my money has been systematically transferred by Michael to Amy's accounts using various seemingly legitimate reasons. Based on how much she flaunts her designer things, I expected her balance to be much lower, I continued. But when I checked Amy's phone logs, I discovered something interesting. Her money has actually increased significantly, almost doubled. And even more interesting, she hasn't told Michael. She keeps complaining to him about how little money she has left. Ethan leaned forward, his expression sharp. You think Amy is trying to keep the money for herself, and she has another source of income? Exactly, I confirmed, nodding. I've been watching her carefully these past few days. After Michael leaves for work, she spends hours chatting and gaming with a man. She sends him provocative pictures, even revealing ones. She's very skilled at manipulation. She's conned him into transferring her large sums of money multiple times. Plus, she seems to be involved in some sort of online investment scheme, which has been quite profitable. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Then a slow smile spread across his face. You want to use Michael to get your money back from Amy, don't you? I returned his smile, colder than his. Precisely. But, I added, I need one more favor from you. Ethan nodded, his smile widening slightly. Looks like I might need to go on a business trip for a few days myself. My second phase of revenge was to make Michael and Amy turn on each other. A twisted game of dog-eat-dog. Ethan helped me discover where Michael and Amy were vacationing. Posing as another victim duped by Amy, I contacted the man she had been scamming online. I sent him the intimate photos Ethan had managed to acquire, presumably from Amy's devices during her typing performance, and their hotel information. The man, who had invested considerable money in Amy without even meeting her in person, was far more enraged than I had anticipated. Fueled by my carefully crafted narrative and the damning proof, he took drastic action the very next day. He flew to the city where Michael and Amy were, checked into their hotel and booked the most expensive presidential suite. Then, pretending to have seen Amy's social media check-in, and to be pursuing her out of passionate, long-distance love, he invited her to his room. Amy, blindsided by this unexpected visitor, couldn't very well refuse someone who had given her so much money and now shown up on her doorstep. She lied to Michael and went to the man's suite. The man, however, was not someone to be trifled with. To punish her betrayal, he subjected Amy to various perverse and cruel acts. He didn't just beat her. He left her bruised and battered, filming the whole thing. He sent the video to me with a message. Thanks for the tip, bro. Almost killed that bitch. A short while later, he called down to the hotel desk and arranged for Michael to be summoned to the suite. According to his account, Michael had just returned from an errand, triumphantly carrying a cup of trendy milk tea he had apparently waited hours in line for. Stepping into the suite and seeing Amy's condition, Michael flew into a rage. He threw the iced tea still full, hitting Amy in the head. Then he attacked the man. Michael, however, was no match for the man's size and preparation. He was quickly and thoroughly beaten. The man then threw Michael and Amy together on the floor, like trash. He filmed their pathetic, battered state and sent it to me. Then, astonishingly, he sent me a large sum of money, 66,000 yuan, saying it was a small token of his gratitude for helping him avoid being cuckolded. He promised a larger amount once he reported Amy to the police and got his money back. I was stunned. I had expected a partner in revenge, but not someone so ruthless and unexpectedly generous. I also hadn't fully appreciated the sheer, destructive fury a betrayed man could unleash. While relishing the moment, I immediately submitted the story to a popular online forum anonymously. It went viral instantly. A mistress caught red-handed, her affair exposed. Then, using a burner account, I accidentally shared the link with Michael's mother. Knowing her frail health and her involvement in concealing Michael and Amy's relationship, I knew the news would be devastating. I knew this was a cruel act, but she was my mother-in-law. She had visited our home multiple times, clearly aware of Michael and Amy's relationship. Yet she had chosen to deceive me, to use me, constantly pressuring me to bear a grandson for their family name. She had even made me drink bizarre folk remedies, some containing unspeakable things like raw chicken blood mixed with incense ash. Blind and vulnerable, I had endured it, hoping to fit in, hoping to be accepted. Now, I saw clearly. In many ways, Michael's mother was even more monstrous than her son. Not a direct perpetrator, perhaps, but a knowing, actively complicit enabler. A week later, Michael returned from his business trip. Finding an excuse, he told me Amy was no longer working for us. He also informed me, feigning grief, that his mother's condition had worsened significantly. He sat on the sofa looking utterly defeated, pulling me into a tight hug. He mumbled about how if his mother died, he would have no one left but me. I scoffed internally, but outwardly I played the part of the concerned wife. "Oh, Michael, don't say that," I whispered, stroking his hair. "Mom will get better." "Are you worried about the cost?" "It's okay. My eyes, they can't be fixed anyway. Take all our savings for Mom's treatment. Nothing is more important than her health." Michael's body stiffened in my arms. A flicker of something cold and vicious crossed his face, no doubt thinking about Amy and the money she had scammed from him. Then, his expression softened again, seemingly touched by my offer, and he held me even tighter. I fought back a wave of revulsion, dreading the possibility of him wanting intimacy. Thankfully, after a moment, something else seemed to occupy his mind. He abruptly pulled away, muttered another excuse, and hurried out of the house. For the next 2 weeks, Michael was exceptionally busy. I secretly monitored his phone conversations, learning he was relentlessly pursuing Amy, using every means necessary to force her to return his money. A wave of satisfaction washed over me. Michael I knew valued his mother above all else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have married me and put Amy through the indignity of being secondary in his public life. With his mother's spiraling medical bills and his lost job, he would stop at nothing to recover that money, and more from Amy. Soon after, I received word from Ethan. Michael and the man Amy had scammed had jointly sued her. With the overwhelming evidence against her, the photos, the videos, the financial trails, Amy was found guilty of fraud. She was ordered to pay both men significant amounts in restitution. The affair and her general immorality, being matters of private conduct, were not criminal charges, which was a small mercy for Michael. Learning that the money had been deposited into Michael's account, and before he could transfer it to the hospital, I initiated my third and final plan. I called the police. They arrived at the house, accompanied by Ethan. With Ethan by my side, a figure of quiet strength, I systematically revealed all the evidence I had gathered: the garish decor they thought I couldn't see, their audacious wedding photos, the intimate pictures, the hidden trove of hydroxychloroquine bottles in the storage room. I recounted everything Michael had done to me, from the initial courtship to the drugging and the deliberate blinding. As the police meticulously documented the scene, collecting evidence, the immense emotional burden I had carried for so long finally broke. Covering my face, I wept. Not staged tears this time, but a torrent of real pain, grief, and fury. The police stayed with me. A short while later, Michael returned, whistling cheerfully, presumably with the recovered money from Amy. As he walked through the door, the police swarmed him, pinning him to the ground. Michael was stunned. He stared, mouth agape, at me and Ethan sitting calmly on the sofa. Comprehension dawned in his eyes. His gaze darted to the wedding photo on the wall, then to the bottles of medication the police had found. His face went ashen, his body trembling. "Wife, darling. Sarah," he stammered, his voice cracking. "Don't listen to him. Your boss is lying. He's trying to trick you. It's not what it looks like." He scrambled for an excuse, his words desperate. "That man, Ethan. He's always had feelings for you. Even when we were dating. I knew. His eyes weren't right. He's jealous because we were so happy. He can't stand to see you well. He's lying, Sarah. You have to believe me." Even in this moment, Michael still believed I was blind. He thought Ethan had visited, noticed the strange house, and called the police. His accusation against Ethan was a desperate, pathetic attempt to discredit the only sighted person he could see who posed a threat. But his words, that Ethan had feelings for me even when we were dating, what did that mean? I ignored him, letting the tears flow, releasing the pent-up emotion. The police led Michael away. As he was being taken out, he continued to yell my name, begging me to believe him, to get him out of this. I cried for hours until I was utterly drained. Later, with Ethan accompanying me, I went to the police station. With Michael in custody, his belongings were confiscated. I obtained his bank card details and, using his phone records and authentication methods the police provided, easily transferred all the money back into my own account. His unsent messages, his browsing history, his digital footprint. Everything became evidence against him. It was late summer when I saw Michael again, after winning the divorce settlement. It was in the courtroom at his sentencing hearing. For weeks, his family had been relentless, trying to pressure me to soften my stance. They adamantly denied his role in the poisoning, attempting to shift all the blame for everything, the affair, the manipulation, even the drugs, onto Amy. They claimed Michael was an unwilling participant, blackmailed and coerced into compliance. Banking on my supposed blindness, they brazenly tried to rewrite history. I said nothing to his family. Instead, before the trial began, I paid a visit to Amy. I told her about Michael's family's attempts to blame her entirely, their claim that she had manipulated him. Amy, I had learned, was indeed a formidable character. To protect herself, she had secretly recorded many conversations with Michael over the years. She confessed she had planned to use these recordings to force Michael to protect her, especially Now that she was pregnant, though she admitted the child wasn't Michael's, she believed the pregnancy could secure her bail and buy her time. But now, with Michael also facing prison and having treated her with such brutal indifference, she decided to help me. Maybe it's karma for the baby, she said, a bitter, regretful smile touching her lips as she looked at me. Maybe it's a way to make up for some of it. She looked directly into my eyes, truly seeing me for the first time. I knew it the first time I saw you, she admitted. It was at Michael's office. You were leading a team meeting, standing there so confident, so sharp, a fire in your eyes. I told Michael you weren't someone to mess with, but he wouldn't listen. She smiled again, a genuine, almost wistful expression this time. Congratulations, Sarah. The light is back in your eyes. Armed with Amy's evidence and her strange form of blessing, I attended the trial. I had my hair styled, my makeup done professionally. I chose the brightest, most vibrant dress I owned and walked into the courtroom on high heels, my steps light and purposeful, taking my seat in the plaintiff's section. In the solemn courtroom, I watched as Michael was led to the defendant's stand and secured. After months, he looked disheveled, defeated, a shadow of the man he had pretended to be. I watched him, my eyes wide open, unblinking, as he was finally seated. Then, his head tilted up, his eyes scanning the courtroom. They landed on me. A flicker of desperate hope appeared in his gaze, grasping for a lifeline. In that moment I blinked. A slow, cunning smile spread across my face. Raising 2 fingers, I first pointed to my own eyes, then to his. Cupping my chin in my hands, I tilted my head slightly, waiting with deliberate calm for the realization to dawn on his face. It took about 10 seconds. His body went rigid. Then, a dawning horror morphed into incandescent rage. He lunged upwards, grabbing the microphone in front of him, a clear intention to hurl it at me. His eyes were bloodshot, his face contorted with a guttural roar. Sarah, you can see. You've been able to see this whole time, haven't you? He screamed. I'll kill you. You scheming bitch. You planned all of this. Vicious words spewed from his mouth, one after another. The bailiffs quickly moved in, struggling to restrain him. His fury was so potent, he actually physically fought against them. I raised an eyebrow, glancing at my lawyer, who immediately rose. Your Honor, my lawyer began, his voice clear and measured. Pursuant to Article 309 of the Criminal Procedure Law, disruption of court proceedings. Hearing the potential consequences of his actions, Michael froze. His struggles ceased. His gaze locked onto me again, the look in his eyes even more savage. Yet, a sliver of his old calculating nature remained. He reluctantly settled back into his seat. As his lawyer began his defense, Michael changed tactics desperately, trying to shift blame. He swore that the poisoning was Amy's idea, that she had threatened and manipulated him, forcing him to cover for her. He admitted the affair but painted himself as a victim, cornered and helpless. He shot me a venomous, challenging look, a silent promise of future retaliation if he ever got out. I met his gaze with a cold smile. As he watched, I calmly submitted the audio recordings Amy had given me to the judge. The courtroom fell silent as the recordings began to play. 6 years of plotting, of scheming, of cold-blooded cruelty. Michael's voice, chillingly clear, echoed through the hushed room, detailing their plans to harm me. The jurors gasped, a ripple of horror spreading through the observers. I hadn't listened to all the recordings myself. Hearing Michael's voice calmly discussing how to manufacture an accident to make my blindness appear natural sent a shiver down my spine, confirming the terrible suspicion I'd had after reading their messages. Then Amy's voice. What if we can't control it? What if she dies? I held my breath, waiting for Michael's reply. His voice was utterly devoid of emotion. Then that's just her bad luck. She was meant to die, I guess. Don't worry, I won't let her die too easily. We still need her money to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. The gasp from the jury and spectators reached a crescendo. I stared at Michael, his face now pale and twitching, and remembered the day of the car accident. I remembered it vividly. It was a weekend. My eyes had been bothering me, significantly interfering with my work, so I had asked Michael to accompany me to the hospital. I remembered his reaction when I brought it up. A sudden tension, an agitation that I had dismissed at the time because I felt so unwell. On the way to the hospital, he stopped and bought a bottle of water. Then, he told me his friend had called with an urgent emergency. and asked if I could go with him first. Seeing his apparent distress and knowing my eye issue wasn't new, I agreed. He drove us to an older part of the city, an area with narrow streets and notoriously difficult parking. After finally finding a spot, he led me on foot to his friend's purported address. He guided me across several busy streets. It was on the very last crosswalk that it happened. It was seconds before the light turned red. Michael was pulling me along, rushing across the road with a crowd of pedestrians. Someone in the hurry tripped me. Then they shoved me. Just two small, deliberate actions. And then I collided with a car. The traffic was slow because of the crowd, but the impact was still enough to send me sprawling. After that, my world went black. My sight was gone completely. Looking back now, hearing the recordings, the person who had tripped me, who had shoved me, was Michael. Just as the thought solidified, another audio file played. It was Michael tense talking to Amy about the incident right afterwards. The final brutal truth, 6 years in the making, was laid bare for everyone in the courtroom to hear. I sat in the plaintiff's chair, and all the satisfaction I had felt in meticulously dismantling Michael's life drained away, replaced by an overwhelming, almost dizzying sense of relief. From that dark abyss, by some miracle, I had been given a way out. It was a terrifying thought that I could have died in that car accident, but by some divine chance I survived. And by some improbable twist of fate, I had fallen in the bathtub, hitting my head, and regained my sight. Without that fall, I would have remained blind, not just physically, but blind to the monstrous truth, trapped in the cage they had built around me, living a lie until the day I died. I raised my head and looked towards the public gallery. Ethan was there, seated among those observing the proceedings. He was impeccably dressed today, a figure of quiet strength and dignity. He looked hopeful, as if he was witnessing not just the end of a dark chapter, but the beginning of a new one, walking with me towards the light. I pulled out my phone, opened our chat, and typed a message, carefully choosing my words. "Ethan," I wrote. "Thank you. Thank you for offering me a beam of light in my endless night. Thank you for giving me the courage to bloom again when I was on the verge of withering. Thank you for everything." He glanced down at his phone. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Then he looked up, his eyes finding mine across the distance over the quiet murmurs of the courtroom. A soft, gentle smile touched his lips. It was a smile of understanding, of shared experience, of quiet affection. A long moment passed before my phone buzzed with his reply. "I told you," his message read. "Sarah, there's no need to thank me. Helping you was my pleasure. More than that, it was my heart's truest desire."